Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Half the Race Gone. My name is DirtenDK, and I'm here to wish you all a very happy new year. Welcome to 2019. Welcome to 2019, and just say it's a pleasure waking up today after all. At least I didn't have a crazy night whatsoever. Yesterday we went to bed quite early. We have a young dog and she doesn't like fireworks, so that was pretty much what we did. But anyways, I of course hope you all had a great evening yesterday. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you are ready for some NES racing. We are talking the Nukeshot Endurance Series. We are at the 9th round of the season, the first race of 2, of course. And this being a 10-round series, we really are nearing the end here. We are at Blue Moon Bay for the race here. First time we use this track whatsoever, and we're using the Infield A variation, and it's going to be interesting to see. It is a very short track. The LMPs are looking at lap times just shy of a minute, so we'll have somewhat more lapping than we're used to at this track, at least. The Drivers' Championships are close in the LMP Pro Drivers' Championships. It is the 2 vert drivers, CJ, Crazy John is here, and Joe of the Fire battling out in first and second. And CJ is on 162 points with Joe of the Fire with 154. So an 8-point lead there for CJ, and it's myself, DirtenDK, in third with 111 points. Then it's Armored Core with 103. It's Tyres with 82, then Splurge with 34, and Tetsukabura on 25 points. And then in the GT3AM Championship, it's Nilseman with 171 points. Wybear there on 147. Off Apple on 117. Ninja Karma on 91. And then Gugas on 51.5 points. It's Jim on 36, Mika with 18, then it's Nikos 14, Jermaine 13, and then a number of drivers that are not really taking part, at least not in this race. So no point in going through the list. And with that said, let us go to the replay, because enough talk about the race. Let's get to it. And a very, very warm welcome to all the repeated viewers, all you serial Half the Race Connors. Hello to Gugas, hello to Nils, Mika, hello to Apple, of course, our trusted moderator. Armored Core is here as well, and it's very nice to see all of you in the chat. And of course, who could have guessed? I'm here with my trusted cup of coffee. What would I do without it? I'd certainly be damned. Let's go for the grid walk. So on home soil, American Armored Core in that very saying livery on his Martini Toyota, but it's actually a very nice one. He's on pole position, and the Toyota had a dominant pace, at least in qualifying here. He is in front of Joe of the Fire, and then it's CJ behind him. Then it is myself, DirtenDK, with Trials 666 in 5th position in the LMP class. And in the GT AMs, it is, dare I say it, Nilseman once more on pole, looking like something we've seen before. Then it's Wybear in 2nd position, Mika in 3rd there. Doing a strong job qualifying in front of Gugas in the BMW M6, the junior mate, as I like to call it. Then it's the other Corvette of Ninja Karma in front of newcomer GRM Bandit. So pleasure to see him joining us today, and it'll be interesting to see how he fares along. He'll be starting at the back of the AM class, but mind you, he joined the qualifying session with about 5 minutes left. So he'd certainly be surprised, or surprised. He'd be excused. Anyway, it's also a very, very good evening to the witty Professor Joe of the Fire. Nice to see you as well. And we're just following the 5-strong LMP Pro field around here. All hybrid cars for these pro drivers. It's been like this pretty much all season, with a single or two odd ones in between. I think Armored Core had the Peugeot 905 in his first race anyways. Of course, Armored Core in the Toyota TS050, the Vert Audi R18 hybrids, and then half the race score in Porsche 919s. And a very close pace also especially between the Audis and the Porsches here, as we'll hopefully also see during the race that it was a close one within the 20 minutes of qualifying here. The infield layout A here is it's a tricky one because it has a very long front straight, and with the banking turn to the banking and especially the banking that you're coming off into turn one makes that one and off or coming off it coming into turn one and then coming onto it once more as you exit the corner. It's very difficult indeed. And then some of those very low speed technical corners in the midsection of the track, having to do that with some kind of high speed setup anyways. It is a challenging track, and we're gonna see here the LMPs as we've been following them around all the way. Mind you that of course we also have the GT field. We'll just have a couple of seconds to follow the LMP start. We're very close to the off now, as it is Armored Core just holding up a little bit there. Let's see when he goes full throttle. There he goes, and brilliant jump he gets. Flying away, very close in between. Both Audis holding on to the second and third positions that they were holding in qualifying, and closely followed, so status quo through turn one in the LMPs. Armored Core immediately gaining ground, with Joe of the Fire second, myself very close to CJ. And let's just get this fixed, of course. Let's see if we can just catch the GT3 start. We just about did, and it's Nilseman gaining the advantage there as Mika tries to move on the inside of Wybear. And they pretty much go 3 wide into turn one with Gugas. Wybear, the Gugas claiming second position. Mika might just still make the exit if he doesn't go too wide there, but Mika very far in. It seems like somebody going sideways there a little bit. Brilliant start from Gugas indeed. Nilseman getting cleanly away, Wybear losing out, and I think it was Ninja Karma getting a big slidey on there. And he is quite a bit of way down already. Bad luck for the Frenchman indeed. F's out for Ninja Karma there, first lap spin. Armored Core getting a brilliant start. Joe of the Fire holding on to his second position and now breaking away from CJ, who's really having to defend already. And it's me and one of the two Porsches closely in behind. CJ getting a very good run though. Now the entire LMP field coming around to lap Ninja Karma, who's with his indicators on, clearly with some kind of damage. Armored Core with a big advantage already. Let's go check out on Nilseman there, who seems to get very close to that wall. He has been the absolutely dominant driver, and as he really suffers the curse of the commentator, I think he just manages to keep it away from the wall and out of the reach of damage. It was very close indeed, a close call from Nilse. Suffering now with the lack of grip. Gugas will be catching up over the next couple of corners as well. Mika still in third position with Wybear in fourth, and then I think it's GRM of course in fifth position. So Mika having gotten the run, as already now we see the leading LMPs lapping the GT field. And this just says something about how quickly that's going to be happening. And it's going to be happening a lot through this race, as we're just going to be jumping on board with Armored Core on his way down the start-finish straight, coming into turn one, that bump. Oh, and it really unsettles his car. And he does miss the apex there. Seems to lose a little bit of pace, but not really a problem though. As we're with Joe of the Fire in second position. He also makes his way cleanly past and keeps his car on track, and somebody goes wide there, and I think that was the car of myself. And what we missed earlier was that I also put CJ in the wall in that very exact same position, so my deepest apologies for that too optimistic of a move that I've tried to put in on CJ during the race, and now I've lost it furthermore. So once more, I think we've seen this before. And hello to chat as well. Welcome to, I was about to say welcome to the NES, but that's a bit late to say that for you anyways. Hello to Bambi Sim Racing, of course. So that's bad luck for myself as I pit in to get the damage fixed. Let's check in with the GT leader still, Nils Gugas, of course, Mika, and now GRM Bandit is up into 4th position with Wybear in to make a pit stop here. It surely is damage for the Indonesian driver. You can easily see those scrapes on the right front of the car. He rejoins, he is in 5th position in class. Let's check back in with the LMP leader, Armored Core, who is still pulling away and who is on a fastest lap by 0.2 of a second here at the moment. And just over 6 minutes run, but he's already with a huge advantage actually. Down to Joe of the Fire, who's now having company from the co-host with the most here on the best of days here on the channel. Sadly not here today, anyways, not here alongside me, but it is of course the smooth boy Trial666 as we are on board. And Joe of the Fire loses a lot of speed. Trials nearly goes into the back of him. Of course, Trials not really able to get early on the throttle in that situation, and that loses him whatever advantage he would have gained into the corner. So not a perfect line there for Trials anyways. He is trying to put on that pressure to Joe of the Fire. CJ still running with whatever damage he might have picked up there earlier. And then it's myself. And the thing I do have in behind is fresh tires and clean space in front, so hopefully able to put in some good laps at the moment. Nils, the ever-dominant figure he is this season in the AM class, and both AM classes, I dare say, both in the LMPs, where he's driving the Mazda LM55, where he's almost put in a clean sheet, I was about to say, but he's always almost won every possible race this season. Of course he hasn't, but it surely has been close. I think with the exceptions of Monza and Dragon Trail that it has been true actually. Guga's second looking strong today. And still within touch of Nils in front, Mika. He's certainly also looking quite okay in his Subaru. Certainly wouldn't expect the Subaru to be too strong here. And it does look like he's losing out on his top speed, just a little bit at least. And a big warm welcome, Happy New Year to our man T5. Good to see you, and warm welcome to you, of course. I hope you had a good evening yesterday, had a nice party and everything. Now, Armored Core, let's go on board with the Flying American, who has just been on his way to destroying the rest of the field so far, and seems like he isn't really gonna be slowing down too much. Times his overtake of Wybear very well here indeed. And with the couple of incidents we've had in both fields, that also means that we've had the kind of split, still a little bit of track without cars, but already now a little bit of a split happening, and here on such a short track that just means that there's close to having traffic on every lap. That's of course not true, but it does become close. Still Joe of the Fire now having gained a little bit of time down to Trials, who in turn is losing out to CJ. CJ now really closing in behind the Dane in the Porsche 919. Let's see the Wasp. Can he make his move here? He ducks in. Oh, gets very close there, but isn't really able to get past. I should probably mention that the Porsche has gotten a BOP change. It has gotten whatever extra weight it had added throughout the season has now been removed. Finally, I dare say we are back on level terms with the Audis and the Toyota, and you can really see that pace is back in the car for this race. as Trials is now able to catch back up to Joe of the Fire, having made a little bit of a mistake, but he is really in a wasp sandwich. And he'll be hoping just to keep the slipstream of the car in front. And of course also hello to CJ. I hope you had a good New Year's Eve yesterday. And of course once more, welcome to the stream. We're following Trials666 as he is in a sandwich between yourself and the other Wasp, driven by Joe of the Fire. Armored Core is leading the LMPs with myself, DirtenDK, in 5th position, and Nilse once again is leading the GT3s. And he's now pulling away a little bit from Gugas, but Gugas still within sight of Nilseman. Same goes for Mika, who's also in turn lost out on a little bit of time. As we see a little bit of sideways going there from the Porsche. Now Trials is very close to Joe of the Fire. So Trials still in with a shot for 3rd position here. And it's worth noting indeed that I think here on reserve duty on as lobby host Joe of the Fire might have forgotten to turn on the flag rules for the race, meaning that we didn't have our usual blue flags, yellow flags and such, which of course I think could have made it a little bit more hard for the GT3s to notice traffic coming up. If you wouldn't notice usually, then the blue flag of course would tell you. Close combat here. Armored Core, look at the gap. If you look at the mini-map in your right top of your screen, you can see the gap down to Joe of the Fire, who's just made his way through the final corner. It is a massive gap already, as Armored Core is far away out of sight. And now I think, there was a bit too much. CJ now coming with the move up on the inside of Trials666. It was a bit earlier on the straight because it was just about the finish line. That means that Trials has no kind of defense. You see how that bump just really unsettles the Audi R18. And Trials really able to carry the speed through that corner. And he's very close to CJ now. All this wobbling, of course, would also have slowed them down a little bit. We have Mika. Mika's up into 2nd and Guga's down into 3rd. Now just having exited the pits, so that might just have been a routine stop for Gugas. He's out right in front of Ybear. As mentioned before, Mika now in 2nd position with Nilseman in the GT lead, and that of course leaves GRM Bandit in 10th and Ninja Karma in 11th, and that's overall positions. That of course means it's 5th and 6th position in class for those two. Armored Core, he's looking so strong there through the turn 1, 2 and 3 combination. Fast flowing first middle sector, and then as you head down towards the second part of the middle sector of the track, it really twists up and becomes slow. And here's a place where the Toyota is probably hard to deal with on those slow corner exit, but Armored Core keeping it very composed indeed. Though he has lost some time in traffic on this left lane, so let's see where he comes out. I think he'll be right behind Gugas. He was trying the overcut, but he's certainly closer to Gugas than he was before. And it looks like Ybear is also re-entering the podium battle in the GTM class, so things are certainly not too far apart. It's really just Nilseman at the moment looking cool, calm and collected, and just seem to have that little bit extra consistency around everybody else in the M class. Armored Core has a very big moment and almost goes all the way over the grass. He just gets 2 tires wide, manages to keep those other 2 tires on the road, and in turn he manages to stay on the track. Now I think that was Ninja Karma, of course, because we have Nilseman in the pits, and Trials is all over Joe of the Fire. And he's going for it here. Trials, would it be the move, or is it just the cutback from Joe? No, it is Trials. Trials 666 up into 2nd position. A strong move from the Dane. Puts his Porsche in front of Joe of the Fire. CJ in 4th position. And let's see when the LMP pit stop round will be beginning. Now Nils has made his stop and he is still leading. It's now Mika, Gugas and Wybear. I think Gugas might have had a problem. We'll have to check this out to be certain. No, he might have had a problem, but he certainly doesn't have damage. And that's all so well for Gugas. Oh, but as Gugas as well suffers the curse of the commentator. And this time around, I don't think that he could escape the damage whatsoever. Oh, Gugas. It was looking good for the Portuguese. Now he would probably be looking at a pit stop just after he had one already. Ninja Karma in to fix his damage from before. Getting fuel on the car as well, and he exits the pit. And Armored Core is on his way in. And just over 16 minutes of racing, so that points to be a 3-stop strategy for the American today. And he also rejoins still in front of Trouse. Trouse also in now. Trouse and Joe of the Fire in simultaneously. And that's going to open the door for CJ. And that is right on the back of CJ. It is myself. Maybe we're both going to get through. I think it's going to be quite close. No, both of those LMPs out in their respective positions as they were coming in. So Armored Core, Trouse, Joe of the Fire, CJ, and myself, DirtenDK. That is the running order of the LMP Pro Field at the moment. Nilseman is still leading the GT3 AMs, and he's looking very strong at the moment. Oh, as Mika might have had a problem there. So will he have damage? Will the young Dutchman have damage? Oh, it seems he was going very slow, but also it might just have been one of those slow corner exits, just seems cheap a little bit. He's going very well in P2 in class at the moment. Certainly strongest GT performance to date so far. And now Trouse is up on his way through the field. Also, Trouse looking at a very strong performance, at least so far, for the opening 20 minutes of the race. Hasn't been going too well for him in the LMP class, at least. But this really seems to be on his best pace today. Coming up to lap Mika, and so he does. Oh, as he gets a tap from Mika up the back, I think Mika misses his braking point in that situation. And that is rear aero damage for Trouse 666. Oh, poor luck. F's out for Trouse because that's gonna cost him a lot of straight line speed. And I'm not sure that the Porsche 919 can afford to lose any more straight line speed than it's already lost against these competitors here, because it is by far the slowest car. And you just see Joe of the Fire who's pulling him in quickly now. Really visibly just closing in that gap. And as we have CJ who's in the pit at this moment as well. His last lap was his best lap of the race so far with a 57.5, also very respectable, close to qualifying times indeed. Now he is back out, he gets right out in traffic behind Wybear, and I suppose it'll be Gugas right in front as well. He'll also have to make that pass shortly. So now myself in 4th position, Joe of the Fire still 3rd behind Trouse. I would expect those two to be close. Trouse still able to pull away through that middle sector with the superior acceleration of the Porsche, and also a very strong handling car. Making their way through one of their Corvettes, one of the 2 Corvettes. So we see Joe of the Fire getting very close indeed. Now I am in the pits, just Tyres this time around. Once more as I'm coming around and coming out. I think it's still in front of CJ, it certainly is. Let's go back with Trouse and Joe of the Fire, because those two are quite close through that final sector. 20 minutes have passed now, still very close indeed. and still Nilse in the lead. And I think I've been here before. I think I have said pretty much all there is to say about the way he does his business here in the AM classes. We have the pass happening right in front, and I just spotted that out of the corner of my eye. Trial 666 getting overtaken into turn 1 by Joe of the Fire, who's now back up into second position. And no surprise really. Oh, Joe gets a very big slide on there indeed through turn 4. He does keep it down into the right hairpin, that is turn 5, and then the double left-handers 6, 7, then into the final 2 corners 8 and the bank turn 9, and that of course completes a lap here at the Infield A layout. Huge moment for Joe of the Fire, as we saw before. Trials already losing, and that's very much so, I think, on top speed more than anything else. Let's check in with Gugas here. He had a problem before. He had a problem earlier pretty much in the race. So we have pit stop round going in for GRM Bandit. And he rejoins. He's still 5th in class. Y-Bear in turn is still 4th in class. With Trials coming up. Oh, Trials! I think he just managed to keep it, even though he went on the grass there. He's clearly trying to push very, very hard at the moment, trying to compensate maybe for that slight bit of damage, for that bit of contact with Mika earlier. He gets too late on the brake and goes deep into the final sector now for Trials. And he is certainly losing time because of that damage. It's obvious from his lap times. It's been a while since we checked in with Armored Core, who's put in a 56.5 on the 20th lap of the race. So a very consistent performance from Armored Core so far. He's really going strongly, and it's looking very dominant. And just 3/10 down. As Stella, the half-race dog, is barking on in the other room. She just wants to say hello to you all. Let's check in with Mika. He's running in second position. So far, I think he's kept it pretty clean, except for, of course, for that little bump into the tail of Trials. Let's go on board with Mika as he's come down towards turn 1. First time we really go on board with the GT cars. And this first corner, very difficult in the GT3 cars because you don't have the downforce that you have in these LMPs to just keep the car planted. And so the window, the speed window, is much smaller. You carry less speed through the corner and need to be much more precise with apex speed in order to get the right exit speed in turn. Into a section of the track where I expect the Subaru to be quite strong. Clipping the second apex nicely there, Mika. Good job. And on his fastest lap also at the moment. So it has been a nice lap to follow the Dutchman upon. Not the biggest of fields once more actually for an NES race, but mind you that a 16 car field here, imagine we'd have 10 GTs instead. It would have been a lap with a 1 minute 8 seconds flat. I think it is, well, it's either Joe of the Fire or CJ, of course, coming up to lap. Let's take a pick. It is the car of Joe of the Fire, second place of the Audis. Trials still in third position, still running with the damage, but he has lost some time over this stint. Considerable time. And both losing downforce and top speed with aero damage. And behind, we had 10 GTs in Tokyo, and that was absolute chaos as well. I remember that race. It was an epic race to watch. It was a horrible race for me, at least, to run. I was in the pits 8 times with damage or so. As I remember, it was 8 times. Might have been 7, might have been 9. I'm not quite sure. It kind of just felt like one long pit stop. That was a great race. And a good... Yeah, of course, that's true. We had actually Jim. Yeah, what happened to Jim? He just left. It's a shame. Anyways, enough cars running to have it interesting. Oh, as Tyres went wide, coming out of turn 1, he might have hit the wall there. Oh, he's really on the limit. 2 tires under the grass on the outside. That's usually not something you save. Ooh, we must be losing some time on this. CJ in 5th position still. He has certainly not had the race of his life either. Look at that lap 18 of a 1:14. That's more than just a pit stop on such a lap. And he is now hunting the 2 half the race gone Porsches in front, and now, oh, as he makes contact with the wall. Was it enough to give him damage? We'll have to check that out. It wasn't, and lucky him in that situation. Niels is still looking strong. Mika in 2nd with Gugas, Wybear, and then it's GRM Bandit and Ninja Karma. Ninja Karma in 6th position in class, who certainly hasn't had the best of races, we must say. Ninja Karma, who usually... the French monster usually shows a bit more consistency that he has shown here today. Certainly not one to remember for him. Joe of the Fire, of course, looking at a great opportunity championship-wise here with the 2nd position here, and CJ 5th at the moment. He would really be gaining in on his teammate. And I think, matter of fact, that he would overtake him if the championship, or if the race were to be decided right now, as they stand, as we are slowly closing in towards the half the race gone marker. Still 2 minutes left, and I'll be there. See if we can hit it precisely this time around. And just, yeah, Dragon Trail was a very, very difficult track to run this kind of multi-class racing upon. It was possible, but it required a huge amount of patience from the LMP drivers, and in turn it was very, very difficult, of course. Now there's a close fight going in between Gugas and Wybear. Now it's the Indonesian coming up on the inside of the Portuguese. And it's down towards turn 1 as CJ rounds him off on the outside to get past. And Gugas is without a real chance. Look at the monster camber of those back tires on the Mercedes. Really trying to save as much tires as humanly possible. But Wybear up into 3rd position in class now. Gugas down into 4th, of course, as a result of that move. Wybear going a little defensive down towards the hairpin here as Gugas makes a late dive. Oh, and a little nudge there up the inside. Oh, and it gets wide on the exit, but he does get it done there. Not sure if it was what he meant to do. Armored core now, of course. Just about very well timed for his 2nd stop on that 3-stop strategy he seems to be on. It's Trouse 666, who's now been in the pits as well. He had a very poor last lap with a 1:33, so Trouse had serious damage there on the last lap. Joe of the Fire now exiting the pits. Is it gonna be in front of myself? We're gonna be very close indeed here, of course. Myself a pit stop down on Joe of the Fire. In reality, and that, of course, is going to make it difficult, but I am close nonetheless. Also, we have now Nilsson pitting in as we have hit the half the race gone marker. Half an hour of racing has gone, and that means that, of course, it's just about half an hour of racing left to go. And we're looking at about 50 laps for the GTs, and in turn, just over 60 laps for the LMPs. So Nilsson rejoins, of course, still in the lead. Is he a lap ahead, or is he just that close to Mika? Oh, they are just that close, but of course Nielsen will be a stop ahead at this point. So he could just let Mika pass if he was to be faster. I don't think it's going to be turning out that way. It looks to be Nielsen just pulling away slowly but surely from Mika there at the moment. Armored Core still leading. Joe of the Fire still second. And in turn still with a Porsche behind him, but now it's my Porsche and not the Porsche of Trial 666 that he was seeing for quite some time early in the race. I can just go a little deep into the final double left-hander. And that's not the final anything, because the final double left-handers would be those two. I guess you could say you have a final quadruple left-handers here. But anyways, it is an American circuit. What would you expect? They are fond of turning left over there. CJ now in for his mid-race stop. Also, of course, on a 3-stop strategy, it seems. Fresh rubber and a little bit of fuel. Let's see how much he puts in. Will he try his fuel undercut for later in the race? It does. Seems that way. Does look that way indeed for CJ. We've seen him do that several times, especially in the LMP races. He fuels a bit more than you would normally do on your second stint, and then in turn has to fuel a bit less for his final stint, and that enables him to pick up some seconds late race. And he's counting on himself to be able to pick up to hold the pace of the drivers around. As myself haven't gone around Mika, and there's a close cluster of cars on the backside. I think it's just traffic. It's Gugas and Y-Bear. Trials going up the inside of Y-Bear. They're getting cleanly past. Gugas, of course, is in front and separated by a couple of LMPs as well, the two, but still close enough. Let's have a check-in with the race leader, Armored Core, as he's just lapped Trials 666. Trials gets one of those big moments, and Armored Core absolutely maximizing how much of the track he uses. He goes very quickly through there. He goes very quickly through there as well. Trials almost goes wide, but keeps up here with the race leader. And that's of course easy to do when you can follow him around. Trials also been on a very nice pace on the last couple of laps. I'm in for a pit stop here. 33 minutes. That in turn is going to make my race an effective 4-stopper, because I did have to pit for early damage. So out of the pit, still in 3rd position, still hunting the Audi of Joe of the Fire. Mika is in now. So Mika in. Let us see where he comes out. A long fuel stop for Mika this time around. But Gugas stays behind, is kept behind, and Mika in turn stays second in class. So a strong race so far from Mika, and if he can keep this up, it will be his strongest GT result of the season so far. And having a look with Gugas. Oh, has a little bit of a moment there. Manages to keep it on track. GRM Bandit, we haven't seen too much of him so far, but he seems to be doing well in that number 35 Ford Mustang Group 3 car. The first Group 3 Mustang we've seen in this series. A very top speedy car. People say that does have a little bit of a boat-like handling, but wouldn't know, haven't really tried it for myself, but do know that it's a very, very fast car on the top speed indeed. And a very nice livery indeed on it, I have to say. And he's in front of Ninja Karma, of course. Here Gugas is in for what he says in chat is his last stop. So a last stop for Gugas. If you expect Mika to have one more, that might be dangerous for that second position. Of course, it means that Wirebear has moved up into third position in class in the Mercedes AMG GT. The PlayStation by Nukeshot Motorsports racing team. Joe of the Fire still second. The witty professor is looking very strong here today. Not really able to follow the pace of Armored Core, but still very consistent as we know him. Certainly has been the king of consistency this season. He has been there or thereabouts pretty much for every race without picking up that many wins. He is still there both in the LMP Drivers Championship fight and in the GT3 Pro field as well. He's also very... It's myself third, CJ fourth, Trals fifth, Nilse of course still leading, Mika, Wirebear, Gugas, GRM and Ninja Karma. Gugas, I think you're trying to clean up your spoilers in the chat. I think that's all going on right there, because I don't think it was my last pit stop yet. Nothing near that. I'll have one more later on, I'm quite sure. So I'm spoiling everything myself. Yeah, so that's nice. I might be wrong anyways. Still looking strong there in third position. And wasn't really expecting to be able to be in such a position when I had that early damage. And you do sometimes tend to get a feeling that it's just race over with kind of bad luck. But I did know that bad luck could strike anyone on a race like this, on a track like this. We've seen it many times and it could still happen. We have 22 minutes still remaining of this race. It's Nilseman leading the GT AIMs. It's Armored Core on home soil leading the LMPs in a very dominant fashion. One of the most dominant displays we've seen this LMP season. He has been very, very, very fast here today, and also was in qualifying where he set a time that was, I think, 6 or 7 tenths better than second place qualifier Joe of the Fire. So Nilse leading, Gugas, Wirebear, or Gugas, Nilse leading, Mika, Wirebear, and Gugas, of course, is what I meant to say. Mika still looking strong there, second position. Oh, was that damage for... Which of the two Porsches was that? I think that was the car of Trals getting a little bit of wall contact there. But not sure that it cost him any damage. So I'm coming up to GRM Raptor Bandit, of course. It's because we've had the GRL Raptor in one of the other series we're broadcasting already at this point, getting confused with names. That does not bode well for the future. Let's just see if Trials did pick up any damage before on that wall contact he had. He actually didn't, so lucky Dane, at least in that situation, not to pick up any more than he did. And still pretty much within contention, because CJ is not that far ahead of Trials. Will not take much for the Dane to climb back up into fourth position. And CJ certainly hasn't had the strongest of his races. Of course, his pace is very much there, but the consistency and the luck, if you will, has also been lacking there. Oh, as Bandit gets a Mad Greek on the inside all of a sudden and just pulls off. But luckily for that situation, it could have been a big wreck indeed. Of course, CJ in a hurry not to get lapped by Armored Core, who is closing up behind. Still Nilse, still Mika, Wirebear, Gugas, so status quo in the GT AIMs. And most of the action seeming to happen in the LMP field at the moment, actually. Joe of the Fire second, it's myself third. But also a bit of spread there, so finally seems like we've had that kind of settling going on, settlement. into the last part of the race. Have a look with Y-Bear, because I think Gugas is slowly closing up behind. Time for a wing cam. If we can maybe spot out any speed difference between the Mercedes and the BMW M6. Both strong in a straight line pace. I think perhaps with a little bit of a handling advantage towards the Mercedes, but of course it all depends on driver skill level in the end, as we go on board with Gugas in behind. Oh, that's one of the Wasps making its way through. And I think that'd be Joe of the Fire, if I'm not completely mistaken. Now, Gugas having made up even more time. He's closing in on Y-Bear at the moment. He most certainly is, and we are nearing the last pit stop round, which we are expecting at around the 45 minutes marker. Just around that, maybe 45 to 47 minutes would be that last pit stop window. So Y-Bear in for his final stop. That's a little bit early. That is a little bit early, but he is also low on fuel. Makes sense also with Gugas close in, so we wouldn't lose time on battling Gugas. And in turn, of course, he wouldn't have the time or wouldn't be able to slow down Gugas. It's a call that he only himself can make. Now Y-Bear, of course, he is in. He's getting the fuel that he'll need to finish the race, and out he goes. Of course, did get that fresh rubber as well. And gets out ahead of GRM Bandit, so free and fresh to taste, or to to chase Gugas now. Armored Core very close to CJ. CJ seemingly not really wanting to be lapped. It's a question of pride for the Mad Greek, I think. Very close indeed. Looks like a battle we've seen before. Certainly not used to being lapped, CJ. But Armored Core has been on a stunning pace all through this race and has been absolutely untouchable in his Toyota 2SO50. As Armored Core comes in for his last pit stop. So last pit stop round for Armored Core, a little bit early, but of course makes sense to get it done when stuck in traffic in that way. And out he goes. And obviously he's still leading. Joe of the Fire is a good way back. And he in turn also has a nice advantage. It's down to myself in third position. CJ's still fourth. Just a bit away back also. Still within some kind of touching distance of the podium. And Trials also still not that far behind, so any big mistakes, any kind of damage or anything like that, then would have problems there indeed. Trials makes his way through, that's Ninja Karma. As Gugas pits in, so it'll be interesting to see if Mika will be through. Mika is of course not the way I'm talking about Y-Bear. Gugas is in, as we mentioned before, he's now fueling. Let's see, that's a very little amount of fuel going into that car. Let's see, can he make it out in front of the Indonesian? I think he can, very much so. There, GRM Bandit goes big time wide. And that's not even wide. He had contact from behind. I think he got absolutely smashed off. If that was the incident with me, it certainly was. Oh, he did some swerving as we were coming into that hairpin. I didn't know which way to choose all of a sudden because he couldn't pick a side. And that just leaves a big wreckage. So now I have to pit in. Of course, a very lucky timing because it would be right around that final pit stop marker anyways. So if you are to have an accident, have it when you need to go in for a stop anyways. And this way around, it doesn't necessarily ruin my race completely. CJ also in for a pit stop now. And he will not be needing much fuel. And I'm having the damage fixed. Tyres is coming in as well. So am I out in front of CJ? I am not out in front of CJ. CJ taking third position with that. So the Mad Greek, third position now for him. Joe of the Fire, his last pit stop. Now for the Witty Professor. But he has a long gap down to CJ. And is in no way in danger. He just has to play it safe. And because he is in turn also too far behind Armored Core to really be able to make any kind of moves. Nilse still leading the GTM class. He's been pretty much as dominant as Armored Core has been today. Has been very strong. Nilse there. Mika's been looking very nice also. Still second position for him. Kuga's third with Wybear fourth, and there seemed to be a scrap between those two more or less. Wybear now having lost a little bit of time actually. Might be the car of Trials in between. So Gugas at the moment hanging on to that third position in class, but Wybear is still very much within touching distance of the Portuguese, and he can still make a comeback for that podium spots within this final 30-some minutes, 13-some minutes of racing. Armored Core is now closing up on CJ once more. CJ did have a very much shorter pit stop there, so Armored Core not really able to get his undercut done like he would have probably wanted to. But now CJ coming up to some GT traffic, and that's gonna lose him time. But of course, same game for everyone here. Same game for everyone. So we are following CJ. I'd also have to say that Nilse, you've been dominant this season, and you were dominant in this race. And if what you've done this season in both of the two AM classes isn't dominance, then I really don't know what it is, because you've just been a tad above basically everyone else. And let it be known that I have said to the other stewards, as I am a mod on this series, of course, I have said to the other stewards that I'm wanting to move Nilseman into the pro field for next season, for season 5, because I think he deserves it, and I think he very much needs to get into the pro ranks to continue his development as a driver as well, because just cleaning out the wins race after race after race, that doesn't necessarily isn't the way to evolve the most. If you get involved in that close racing, car-to-car racing, door-to-door racing, that it would be if you came up into the pro field. And it would also add to the width of the pro field and enable in turn even more newcomers to the series in the AM field. So that is very much the way to go, I'd say. Mika still second as we are closing in on the last 10 minutes of racing. And he's certainly been looking at one of his strongest performances so far in the NES, the young Dutchman. He's been on the podium before in the LMPs, but he's been struggling with the Subaru. Now he seems to be just coming to terms with it for today's race, and he is going strongly indeed. As we have a cut back to Gugas, still third, still having put some distance into Wybear behind. Oh, as he gets a little loose on that exit. Oh, and CJ, oh, CJ. I'm seeing F's in chat, and we're just gonna have to check how much damage. Oh, he doesn't have damage whatsoever. Well, then what happened with CJ? Oh, he's already been in the pits. Well, that is, of course, what was F-worthy. So, yeah, poor luck for CJ once more, and it was not the first incident of this race. And that really sums up a horrible race once more for him. And it's going to take a bit of a beating, it seems, in the championship standings as well as Joe of the Fire. If it ends as it stands right now, it's going to be closing up some of that distance between the two. And well, Nils, if you practice on the manual gearbox, you will get used to it quickly. Of course, it'll take, well, for some it's a matter of hours, for some it's a matter of days, for some maybe a matter of a week or two of getting used to it. But getting used to it you will, and once you've gotten used to it, it's very much an advantage. An advantage of speed, an advantage of fuel economy, and an advantage of car control as well. So really no argument to really go for the automatic gearbox, I think I'd say. So Nils Gugas in third still, it's Mika second. Wyber is not really looking like he's closing in on the Portuguese in front. And of course in the LMPs, Armored Core has been stunning today, and he is still just, well, he can basically just cruise around for the rest of the race. He is so far ahead at this point and basically lapping the entire field, I believe. He hasn't lapped Joe of the Fire yet. It's pretty much everybody else has been lapped. So might just be a third place finish for me in the end, even with all the bad luck and the stupidities of the opening of the race with the tap on CJ. Didn't give me damage, but certainly didn't give CJ the best the best starting point for this race. And I also said earlier, I of course am so sorry. But in third I am at the moment, and we'll see if I shall have any penalties for that incident earlier once the stewards have had their say. So here, as we are very much nearing the end of the race order pretty much also seems settled now. CJ in fourth position, Trials in fifth. And then Armored Core, Joe of the Fire, and myself on the LMP podium as Joe has to go up the inside of Wyber. And it's Trials right behind Joe, who's trying to catch up, I think, at the moment. A bit of lapping battling here going on. Oh yeah, and Apple, who wasn't there for the race and hasn't seen it here, we'll have to we'll have to show Apple the incident somehow, because he wasn't here for the race. Wyber in for a pit stop now. He is out. We're looking at Gugas. He's also been in. Tyres for Wyber. Fuel for Wyber as well. A bit of a surprise. That maybe I'd say. But out of the pit he comes. And that's certainly going to close that discussion on the battle for third position in the GTM class as well. Because it's very much going to send it the direction of Gugas. He just needs to keep it composed for just about 5 minutes of racing now. And I think he'd be able to do that. Oh, my apologies. Having gotten a little bit thick-headed, or yeah, just a little bit full of snot in the face. Not the nicest thing to be, of course, especially not when having to talk non-stop for an hour. I'm doing my best not to let it get the best of me. Wyber. Certainly did expect a little bit more from Wyber. I think he's losing too much top speed on all that camber on a track like this. Because it would lose you top speed to have that amount of camber, I'd say. Yeah, perhaps. Can lap once more. Let's just see. Oh, Joe of the Fire and Trals with a... There is a lap between him. Trals doesn't want to be lapped by Joe. He wants to unlap himself. Is he gonna do that? That's a little bit silly. But of course, would expect him to try and do so respectfully to Joe of the Fire. Of course, Joe of the Fire isn't in a position where he has to take any kind of risks. Oh, as he goes up the inside, Trals might be able to send it as they come through here. Oh, Joe of the Fire was just about to set a big mark on the wall there. I think he saw it coming early enough to just pull out of it. That could have gone horribly wrong. Joe of the Fire doing just what I said that he could do just before, that he could just relax, let Trals through and not really mind lapping him or not. That was very, very, very close indeed. Yeah, respectfully, very respectfully indeed. Epic indeed, Apple. So Joe of the Fire getting cleanly disposing cleanly of Trals, and intelligent way of just letting the Dane through, accepting not to get that lap. Well, it doesn't change anything whatsoever. Oh, as Nils overtakes his teammate, as his teammate is in the grass, and that's Ninja Karma. We've touched on it already, but certainly seems to be a horrible race for the French monster, who's once again with heavy, heavy damage, and he goes off. He goes off big time. And he's now parked the car just on the inside of the final bank turn. And then question if it's turn 9 and 10, if that left kink on the back straight actually counts as a turn. Armored Core getting past safely. That's a bit too much, but a lucky place to do it nevertheless, to be right beside the pit lane with all that damage. And the crowd are going wild as they hear. Oh. So Armored Core having lapped the rest of the LMP field. We don't usually see this, and it's not like he's just doing it every race. He has expressed that he really likes this track, he knows it very well. He was expecting to be strong around here, and this being home soil for Armored Core, of course, it is as you'd expect. He has been extremely strong here whatsoever, and is now cementing that with what seems to be a race win. We are within the last minute of racing. Joe of the Fire is on his 60th lap, and he has plenty of space in front and behind. CJ is trying to catch up to me, but there is a bit of way in between both of us. As we cut back to the Greek madman, who is 4th in class at the moment. He certainly also has had a very unlucky race. And as we've mentioned on before, Joe of the Fire will be... he will be gaining on CJ in that championship battle. So will Armored Core, of course, but I don't think Armored Core is exactly close enough in that battle to be able to catch up to those two guys in front. Anyway, time is running out with 4, 3, 2, and 1 second left, and there the 1 hour of racing has passed, and Gugas is first to get across the line alongside GRM Bandit. Joe of the Fire comes home for 2nd position in the LMP class. Trals comes home for 5th indeed. As we mentioned, Gugas there home in 3rd position, Ybear 4th, GRM Bandit is 5th. Armored Core has taken the checkered flag for himself and the victory. Very, very, very strong performance from the American here to win. Same goes to Nilsemann, the young German who's won for the RLA team yet again here in front of Mika, the Dutchman, and Gugas. And on the very strong result for Mika. Also strongest result actually so far. His best result being a third in the LMP AM at Suzuka. So it was a very hectical race, and we've had some drivers talking that they don't want it to return for Season 5. I pretty much do want it to return for Season 5 because I think these tracks that aren't just easy to fly by with traffic, they are the one that also makes for the most unpredictable racing. And what we like on this channel is, of course, unpredictable racing. Of course, it was easy to predict with the wins today because from the get-go it was both Armored Core and Nilsson, our eventual winners, who pulled away right from the flag and who kept their leads pretty much all the way through the races. But there was a lot of scrapping going on for those secondary positions, which is a big part of motor racing whatsoever. And then a lot of action with the traffic here today. I vote for it. It's going to be interesting to see what ever happens. Of course, that is down to the organizing team. So yeah, so happy to see so many viewers today. It's been an absolute delight and a very warm welcome to 2019. I hope you've been enjoying the show, and I hope that this little broadcast of ours was just a slight remedy, at least for your hangovers today. We will be back tomorrow already at 9 o'clock Central European time. That means it's of course 8 o'clock in Greenwich Mean Time. But we'll be back tomorrow with the NES versus TSR special event. A special event that features it features 7 drivers from each of the series. So we can see there's a team NES with drivers from the Nukeshot Endurance series. There is a team TSR with drivers from the different TSR series, the Super GT series, the M3 TSR, and so on. And the drivers will be going head to head in the McGann Trophy. 26 laps of racing around Circuit de Catalunya. And it's going to be a team race as mentioned before. So every driver is going to be racking up points for an overall team standings. And it'll be fun to see which team is going to win. So do tune in tomorrow at, as I mentioned, 9 o'clock Central European time. And with that said, thank you so much for tuning in today. As I mentioned before already a couple of times, I hope you had a great new year. Welcome into the new year. It's been a pleasure showing you this race today. And if you haven't already, do hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to stay in touch, we've got Twitter and Discord. And it's at the bottom of the description, so you can check that out if you want so. And yeah, I hope to see you tomorrow already, all of you. And of course, one thing that should be mentioned is that tomorrow's race will be a proper live broadcast. Those are always a little bit more fun to do, I think, than these re-live. Not to take anything away from the re-live broadcast that we take part in, racing ourselves, save the replay and then do. But anyways, it's going to be live tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. And with that said, I think that was all. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a blast. My name is DirtenDK. You've been watching Half the Race Gone. And until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.